Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 160. It was recorded in Los Angeles, California, and I sat down with KJ. She is many things, but the reason why I wanted to talk with her is because of the journey she has been on. More about who she is rather than what she does. I'm going to touch on what she does. She's a singer-songwriter. She's on Spotify under Just KJ. She's got an album coming out soon under the name Just KJ. She's a yoga person. She does all sorts of really fascinating adventures. But it's how she got to where she is that really intrigued me. And she was kind enough to sit down and chatter with me at her place that she's staying in. She's here from Hawaii visiting for a few weeks. So we got to intersect. And she told me about her upbringing and some choices she had made, some people she had hurt along the way, and how she's come to find herself. And so it's my hope that, of course, listening to her will be inspiring as much as it was for me, that it would be that for you. The usual stuff, heyhumanpodcast.com. Of course, the links page for this episode is massive. KJ talks about a lot of books and YouTube videos and movies and things, and I made sure to get as much of that down as I could without overwhelming anybody on the links page. There's a lot of good info there, though. Also, on the Hey Human Podcast website is the Amazon portal. Hey Human is ad-free. I like to keep it that way. So if you shop Amazon, do so through the Amazon portal there on the Hey Human Podcast website, and it helps support Hey Human. Email me, Susan at heyhumanpodcast.com. Rate and review Hey Human on iTunes. You can find me on all the social media at this point, whether it's under Hey Human Podcast or Susan Ruthism. And you can also find me at susanruth.com if you want to know a little bit more about me personally. All right, let's get this underway. Here we go. Hi, KJ.
Hello.
Thank you for being on Hey Human.
I'm stoked. Thank you.
This is a nice surprise to see you here in Los Angeles, because normally you are in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I was trying to remember when. We don't really know each other, but we do, because we met, 4 years ago, maybe?
No, it's actually been...
Was it longer?
I've been in Hawaii almost 6 years.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
That's insane to me.
Yeah, and I met you... I think the first time I met you was in Key West.
It was Key West. I met you in a pool, I believe. Yeah, through our mutual friends, Danny and Megan.
Danny and Megan. I miss them.
Yeah, they're great. I miss them too. Let's go backwards a little bit. Where are you from?
Well, originally I'm from Maine. I grew up in the middle of the woods basically until I was 5 or 6.
Okay, the middle of the woods.
Middle of the woods in
Maine.
Like we had no neighbors, and my friends were like trees and deer and stuff. I was definitely.
So you started taking mushrooms at 4?
Yes. I seriously had no friends because I grew up in the middle of the woods, and my dad was away for work, so it was my sister and my mom and I in this house. And my mom had a preschool in our house, so every 3 days a week we had some kids that would come to our house
to socialize you.
Yeah, and they went to my mom's preschool, so I didn't even have to leave the house. So I was just there until I was 5 or 6. My mom actually had to send me to another preschool because I got angry at her giving anyone else attention.
How did you behave when you got angry?
I was super sassy.
You're still pretty sassy.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about being shipped off to another preschool? Or daycare?
I actually loved it. It was finally I got to get out of the house.
Yeah. Were your parents hippies, or are they just like the woods?
It's just where my dad grew up.
Oh, okay. Maine is beautiful. Yeah.
It's gorgeous for 2 months out of the year.
And then it's what, snow?
It's snow, and then we have a giant winter, and then there's a giant mud season when everything's melting. Mm-hmm. And then it finally gets nice in June, July, August, September, and then October is actually beautiful. I love it when it's starting to cool off, and then it's another dark, dreary, cold winter.
You don't have an accent or anything.
No, I've moved around so much. I moved to Massachusetts when I was 6. That was the first time I was actually like around like a neighborhood with kids, and I was definitely awkward. And went to elementary school there, and then when I was 11 years old, my parents came into my bedroom and told me we were moving to the Dominican Republic, which I had never heard of, and I didn't know where it was.
You're like, can't you just get a divorce like normal parents?
Oh my gosh.
Why the Dominican?
They have shoe factories down there, and my dad has always worked in shoe factories, and he was traveling so much to go down there all the time in Mexico and the Caribbean. And so instead of him being away all the time, they proposed the whole family moving down there. They paid for the move. They paid for our private school, and I think the house and cars and everything.
Wow.
So it was a good move.
That's great.
It was a good move for everyone except for, I guess, for the kids, because it was really hard for us. I was just about to go through puberty, and I remember I had like little mosquito bite boobs that were just starting to get sore, like right before they were coming in. And that's when I got down there, and I'd never had male attention before. I didn't even like know I was a female until I moved down there, and then all of a sudden I got so much, like, you couldn't walk outside of the house without the guys hissing and mami chula, and calling me rubia, which means blondie, and I'm not blonde, but every white person is a rubia or gringa. My first AOL screen name was actually Gringa13 because I just owned it. Like, everyone called me that, and sometimes it was derogatory and sometimes it was friendly, just a cute nickname or whatever. But
what does that do to your self-understanding if you're being sexualized the minute you come into womanhood?
It's funny, like, as soon as I was a tomboy when we moved there, I like wanted to play sports. I was like left eye TLC. I loved wearing like the baggy pants and the tiny shirts and super tomboy. And then as soon as I got down there, my parents can attest to this. It was like overnight, I started feeling more like a woman, and just was starting to wear high heels and mini skirts. My parents tried to not let me leave the house like that, but them trying to discipline me was pretty impossible.
Were you a bratty kid?
I was definitely a bratty kid. Oh my goodness, I feel bad for them.
Where are you in the birth order?
I'm the middle child. I have an older sister who's 3 years older, and she has Asperger's and autism. Like, they couldn't actually like diagnose her with something specific. She's very unique. She has growth problems as well. And so immediately when I was like, I don't know, 5 years old, I knew that I was the older sister. And she got made fun of so much, and I've always been kind of spunky and feisty. And that came in handy because I had to defend her a lot in school.
Did you get into physical fights?
There was times where I hit people, but it was always out of love for her. Sure. And she'd come home crying all the time, and it was so sad to see because she was the sweetest. But kids are brutal. I got kicked off the bus once because I punched a boy for making fun of her, and I had people coming up to me all the time being like, "How does it feel to have a sister like that?" And if they were asking like in a sweet, genuine way, I would just, I'm like, I don't know, I've never had another sister. But if they were asking in a mean way, it would really get under my skin.
Are you still close?
Yeah. I mean, we text. We don't talk on the phone very much. She lives in Michigan, and she's actually married to a guy named Mark, and her name's Kelly. And they live in Michigan, and they are the cutest little couple, and they have their own set of quirks, and they are like a match made in heaven.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I think they told my mom that she'd never graduate high school, and she graduated college, and she's married and lives on her own with her husband. So that they never treated her any different. They just, anytime, like, they put her through normal school. She only took a few special classes. And every time they did anything for us, like if they bought me a laptop, obviously she got one. Like everything was the same. There was no.
Isn't that interesting how doctors and probably a lot of medicine lump it all together, that they would say, this is the limitation we're putting on your child. And how many parents who are in a state of maybe shock hearing that their kid, is different, or just not understanding whatever's going on, just accepts that. And then, as you said, your parents didn't treat her any differently, but many parents, without even meaning to, but just out of love, start treating them more maybe kid glove, or not thinking, oh, well, they're not going to achieve this, so I'm not going to put them through that stress, to make them feel bad or something. And then you have the other parents who are like, well, fuck off. I'm just going to expect the best from my child and see what happens. And then, human beings rise to their occasions if you give them half a fucking chance. It frustrates me to no end when I hear medical professionals telling parents what is an impossibility. Such and such defied the odds. It's like, well, who gave them those odds? Is there some bookie that's deciding that your kid isn't going to become something great?
Totally. I feel my sister's she's a brilliant person, and but just autistic people, they are really smart and they can be really, really good at things, but their social skills are not there, and she doesn't like loud noises and crowded places. And
did you define yourself by what you weren't in comparison, especially since even though you behaved like the older sister, even though because she was the older sister, did that sort of like the guys whistling at you defining your womanhood, did a sister who's autistic define your not autism? Or did it occur to you? Or
no, not at all. I remember it being hard for her when I was getting so much guy attention, because she was the boy crazy one. She loved boys. Like, I never liked boys. I was just like, it took me a long time to start liking guys. I was just like in my own little creative world, and I loved to be alone. And she like would come home from school in like kindergarten and first grade talking about all the crushes that she had. And
I'm like your sister.
and there was a guy in high school that she was in class with, actually, or in her class. We went to such a small school. There was like 20 kids in each class in the Dominican, and she liked this guy named Sammy. And the next thing you know, Sammy asked me out, and we start dating. And she had a hard time with that at the beginning, because it was like her big crush, and that happened a lot. So I didn't even realize all this until my mom told me afterwards, but it was hard for her to see. She had a lot of jealousy toward me because I'm the younger sister who was like the first one to have a boyfriend, the first one. It was hard for her to see me doing all the things that she wanted to do but couldn't. Driving a car. We took driver's ed together, and her motor skills are very, if she starts laughing, she loses control of her whole body. She just like giggles, like just can't do anything when she's laughing. So I took driver's ed with her, and if she started laughing, she just would like let go of the entire vehicle. And yeah, it was scary.
So she could drive here in LA, but in any place else.
Yeah. She didn't get her license.
I have seen some interesting things on the freeway here so far.
Oh my gosh!
People just stop in the middle. They'll be going the normal speed limit, and then they just decide to stop for no reason. It's very weird. Anyway,
I learned how to drive in the Dominican Republic. I took driver's ed in Maine during the summertime, but like my parents I don't understand how they let me do this, but they gave me my mom's Ford Explorer in high school. I had just turned 16, and I'm like driving in Santiago, Dominican Republic, which was crazy. There's like tires burning in the streets, cows and chickens everywhere. There's no lanes of traffic. You just kind of get there. And if stoplights are just suggestions, you can run right through them. And
it's very Mad Maxy sounding.
Yeah, there's no rules down there. So that's where I learned how to drive. And I was driving my sister and brother to high school, and yeah, it was.
How many years younger is your brother?
He's 7 years younger. He was an accident.
That was an accident.
Very sweet little accident.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's 7 years younger, so it felt like I grew up with a really, really young brother, and I didn't get to know him that well, actually, because I moved out when I was 17 and he was 10, and then I moved back to the U.S. on my own. My family stayed down there.
Was that scary, or were you all about it?
Oh my gosh, I was so ready. I wanted to leave home and grow up when I was like 10. I was ready. But now I want to get to know my brother more, but he's busy because he's in college and he's doing his own thing. So yeah, I don't have a very close relationship with my brother and sister, but I would love to nurture that.
They might come back around.
Yeah, for sure.
Just takes time, for sure. So you left home at 17. Your parents were cool with that, or?
Oh yeah, I went to college because that's what I was told I was supposed to do.
What'd you study?
Well, I wanted to do music. I had been writing songs, little ditties on the guitar and singing. I wrote poetry, before I can remember. And I picked up a guitar that my parents had sitting in the living room in the Dominican, and my dad showed me D, A, and G.
That's all you need.
Yeah, and the first cut is the deepest. Is the first song I ever learned on the guitar, and that's easy because it's just those 3 chords back and forth. And so I wanted to do music. I went to Berklee College of Music, has a 5-week summer program, and I wanted to go when I was like 14, but I was too afraid. I didn't think I was good enough. And then I saw this Disney movie with Hilary Duff in it. I can't remember what it was called, but she's like a singer, and it was like a zero to hero story. And just watching that movie made me go online and apply for this program, and I got accepted. And then I had to convince my parents to let me go to Boston for the summer when I was 16 and stay in co-ed dorms, which was really fun. And so I did that, and then it was great for me because I had a gauge to see where I was compared to everybody else that wanted to go to Berklee. And I definitely was not the best singer. I was just starting out playing guitar, and my songwriting was, I was a baby.
Why do you think they let you in?
Well, that summer program, I think it's not too hard to get in. I think it's as long as you have some musical background. And but then I went to Suffolk University for my first year of college because I was convinced by my conditioning that music wasn't something I could make a career of. Everyone in my family is engineers and business people, and my uncle, he's very, very, very successful. And I remember him asking me when I told him I wanted to go to Berklee, he asked me what my backup plan was. And that like rang in my ear because I'm like, backup plan? Like, I mean, I just want to do music. And like, but everybody, music doesn't make money unless you're a superstar. I don't know, like that's just like what we see and what I grew up around. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can't do music. So I went to Suffolk University, and I'm like, I guess I'll do journalism because I love writing. So I went to Suffolk University for 1 year, but 2 weeks into class, I called my mom crying because I had been seeing all the Berklee kids walk by with their guitars on their backs, and it's right down the street, and I was just like, I can't do this. I'm not taking notes. All I'm doing is writing lyrics, and I'm not interested in anything but music right now. And at Suffolk, I took this Beatles workshop, and I became obsessed with the Beatles, and I started writing songs all the time, and I just wasn't focused in school at all. So I transferred to Berklee. I didn't know if I was going to get in because that year it was really tough. I think a very small percentage of people who applied got in. And I went over there all confident, probably played an awful song, singing, playing guitar, one of my original songs, and I to this day don't know what part of that got me in. Hopefully it was just the package deal, because I'm not the best at anything. I'm just like, I'm package deal, and I believe in myself. And I got in. So I transferred there, and as soon as I got to Berkeley, first day, I'm in the vocal department, because that was my strength. You have to pick an instrument. So guitar, vocals, definitely vocals was where I shined more. And I remember walking in and seeing all of these divas. Like, everyone has their style. They're all like center of attention, spotlight singers. And they're doing vocal runs in the bathroom. They all sound like Mariah Carey and Beyonce, and super confident. And I am like this meek, like, singer-songwriter who like wanted to have a bag over her head and be in the corner and like just, you know, I mean, I wanted to do it, but I was always afraid of the stage and not that confident. The confidence was in my songwriting. So I went to the guitar department and asked to transfer. And they kind of like laughed at me, and they were like, people that get in here have been playing guitar their whole life. They're like really good, and like, you know, I mean, and I just basically knew enough chords to write a song. And but these guys were amused, and they said, we don't have a lot of females in the guitar department, so I'll tell you what, if you take this paper right here and you can play us this song tomorrow, we'll have you audition for us. And
what was the song?
I don't know. Oh. But it was sheet music, and I was like looking at it, and I'm like, sheet music and a guitar? Like, I played piano growing up, so I like, you know, kind of knew a little bit about reading music, but on a guitar, like, a guitar is like having 6 pianos that are all lined up in a different way. So
that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. So I'm like looking down at this thing. I'm like, so I just had a little piano, and I played it out, and I memorized it, and then I memorized it on the guitar that night. Was probably up all night. And the next day I like hacked my way through this in front of 4 guys that were probably, you know, really amused, rolling their eyes at me. And they gave me a break. They said, okay, I'll tell you what, we'll let you into the guitar department, but you're going to be level 0. And we're going to put you in, you know, the beginner classes, and you're going to have to work really hard, and just promise us that you're going to work really hard. And I was like, okay. And I left, and I was like skipping down the street. I was so excited. And I called my mom, and I'm like, I'm going to be a guitar major, guitar focus, or whatever I said. And it was so hard. But I learned so much that year. And I traded in my acoustic guitar for what was it? A Stratocaster, I guess. Like Mexican Stratocaster. Because everybody had electric guitars there, and I was the only acoustic. And you had to play a lot of scales and a lot of jazz chords, and that's kind of hard to do on an acoustic. So, I learned so much that year. And at the end of the year, my private teacher, Andy Menez, I'll never forget his name. Hi, Andy, if you're listening. He sat me down in his office, and he said, listen, Kimberly, I don't know how to say this in a nice way, but I guess I'm just trying to say, if there's anything else you can do, I would go do that. And it took me a second to process what he had said, and I left the office kind of like in a trance. And then I start walking down the street in Boston back to my house in Back Bay, a little apartment that I had, and start bawling on the way back. And I got to my room, and I remember just being angry, but at the same time I knew that he just didn't understand my journey. And I knew that I wasn't a good guitar player. I knew that I wasn't an amazing singer, but it was songwriting. That's why I was there. So a trip to Nashville that year.
How old are you at this point?
I was 19 or about to turn 19. I was 18. And I took a trip to Nashville with Berkeley. They brought down a bunch of kids, 2 busfuls. That was really fun. We drove down from Boston to Nashville and just spent a week walking around the music industry, watching recording sessions, watching writing sessions, taking tours of studios and meeting publishers. And it was so eye-opening. And everybody was like, I'm going to move to Nashville when I graduate. And I was like, fuck that, I'm moving to Nashville right now. So as soon as I got back to Boston, I packed all of my clothes in trash bags, moved.
So you quit Berkeley then?
Yeah, I went to Berkeley for 1 year.
Oh, okay.
So I finished up Berkeley, I think it was May, and then packed my bags and I moved to Nashville that summer. And that was the best thing ever. I mean, I was so obsessed with Nashville, and I had grown up at a young age listening to some country music, but kind of disowned that part of myself. In the Dominican, like, it was all Latin music, it was hip hop, R&B, rap. That's what I was like a little gangster when I was in the Dominican. And all of my friends were the Dominican kids that had grown up in New York City that spoke English. So I literally was like hanging out with all the little gangsters. And I even tried to talk like them. And then I went from that to even in Boston, I hung out with all the black kids because I was so used to being the minority that I didn't feel like I could relate to all the white kids. So I hung out with all the black kids in college.
You look Spanish to me, your face. So I don't know if that...
Italian, Irish, and French.
Okay. The French has got that high cheekbone and...
Yeah. I'm definitely a mutt. But I
God
feel like I got
mutts.
most of the Mediterranean in my look for sure. Sorry, this story is getting all over the place.
No, it's great. Well, what I find fascinating is here you are, you're a teenager, you say, Mom, Dad, I'm taking off, I'm going to go take this summer course, and then you say, okay, I'm going to go get into Berkeley. I mean, you're a kid. And just wrapping my head around that, it's fascinating to think that you then at 18 or 17 and a half said, I'm going to move to Nashville and through all your... These are pretty major life decisions for a young adult. You're not even voting yet, and you think, I'll just throw all my crap in some plastic bags and head on down the road,
Totally.
It's pretty extraordinary.
We're told, like we're supposed to have it all figured out and know what we want to do and where we want to live. And
at 18.
It's so young. And it's frustrating looking back and thinking about all the money that my dad spent for college. I mean, I'm so grateful for it, but if I had taken some time to live my life a little bit more, I feel like that money could have been used a little bit more wisely.
Sure.
Yeah. And
so what happens? You get to Nashville. Is it everything you thought it was going to be?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I transferred to Belmont University because I had to go to school. That was just kind of how I was raised. So definitely had to finish school. And plus, I'm lucky. My dad was paying for my school out of pocket. So I went to Belmont, and they had just started a songwriting major. So I was a guinea pig for it. I was the first class to graduate with that. And so it's basically music business degree with the songwriting focus. And so I went from, at Berkeley, I was learning technical stuff. I'm learning how to arrange like an orchestra and counterpoint and harmony class and all. And it was great. It was very helpful, but it wasn't what I wanted to learn. I wanted to craft songs. And so when I got to Nashville, it was like an epiphany. I was like, oh my gosh, you can actually make a living writing music. And all of these people are weird like me, and they want to be behind the scenes. They don't want to be a diva up in the front. Songwriters are weird. Like, I felt like I just fit in. I was like, I found my people. It was so nice.
We're poets, right? We're the weird, geeky poets. poetry person in the corner reading books in general. I don't know that all songwriters are like that, but the ones I really like are like that.
Totally. So I felt like I'd found my people, and I went to Belmont for I finished college there, but after my first year, I started looking for internships, and I wasn't supposed to yet. I don't think I started looking early, and I was just, gonna tell them that I was getting credit for it, but just intern for the experience. I was very impatient, and that's been something in my life that I struggle with, but also has gotten me places. So I started asking around for internships, and I got one when I was a junior. I interned for Tom Lees Music, right on Music Row, like a stone's throw away from Belmont University, for Leslie DiPiero, and that was an amazing experience. So I'm interning there. And
for those that don't know, Bob DiPiero, Leslie's husband, is like ridiculous #1 songwriter. Gobs and gobs and gobs of songs.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Some of the biggest, in fact.
Yeah.
Nice guy too. I've met him a couple times.
Super, super down to earth. And like Bob and Leslie became like my parents in Nashville, because my parents still lived in the Dominican Republic.
And you were a kid, so I mean, what, 18, 19, 20-ish?
Yeah. I was 20 when I started interning for them.
I don't think I've ever met Leslie, but I hear she's really cool.
She's amazing. She was like my mom figure. She's actually the first boss lady figure in my life. It's
good to have a powerful female role model at that age.
Definitely.
Especially in a male-dominant industry, right?
Totally. And my mom is such a sweet lady, but she's very... she's was never assertive, and so it was nice to see that you can she like Leslie took me under her wing. She showed me all the who's who of Nashville. She was brutally honest about everything with me, and she taught me, like, she showed me that you can be like a nice bitch, basically. Because she's so sweet, and everything that she's saying is coming from a place of love, but it's straight up. Like, if it hurt my feelings, I knew she didn't intend to hurt my feelings. It's just I need to toughen the fuck up. And I'm just so grateful for that time that I spent with her. And so as an intern, she immediately took a liking to me. And when the office manager moved away, she hired me as the new office catalog manager. So I was a senior in college, also managing a publishing company. And I hired an intern who was my same age, in my same class, and taught him everything that I learned. And I was learning as I went. I helped with like all the social media and building a website and plugging in the songs, and I got to know all the names of the songwriters and A&R people, and dabbled in a little bit of song plugging.
Explain what song plugging is for people that don't know.
Song plugging is when you have a song that you think is good for an artist, and you send it to the right people who are planning out their album. So it could be the artist themselves, it could be the A&R people, the manager.
Yes, it's very rare for a country artist to write their own material. So these songs get pitched by the song pluggers to the producers and the artists themselves sometimes, or their management, or
Yeah, and I really had an awesome experience there. And then, so I went from intern to managing the catalog in the office. And then I graduated, and upon graduation, she found out that I was a songwriter as well through somebody else, which was perfect, because I wasn't gonna be like, hey, by the way, I'm a songwriter, look at me, like, because it was a conflict of interest. But the woman Victoria, who was upstairs in the office, she had her own company.
Victoria Shaw.
Yeah, Victoria Shaw. She's an amazing woman as well.
Wrote a bunch of Garth Brooks hits, and you were running around with some heavy hitters.
Yes. Yeah. I love Victoria too. She's such a sweet lady.
Woman.
Strong, yes. I was surrounded by boss ladies.
Yeah, she takes no BS. She's baller for sure.
Yes, and but she had heard a couple of my songs and was like, Leslie, have you heard this girl's music? And then when she heard it, she offered me Leslie offered me a baby songwriter deal, basically. Publishing deal, exclusive writer contract. The reason everybody moves to Nashville. So I'm a manifester. Like, that's my human design. I'm a manifester, and like my whole life, I swear I get what I want. I always get what I want, whether it's a positive or a negative thing. It's like subconsciously, I have my eyes on something, and it always comes. And so yeah, everything in my life works out the way that I want it to. And then sometimes I get something and then I don't want it anymore. So, because we got to try things out, you know? We figure out who we are by figuring out who we're not.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I got this publishing deal and I was so happy. I also had been dating an amazing songwriter, producer, Dave Thompson, Dwave, and we had dated for a couple years, and I thought I wanted to get married, and I wanted to do everything. Like, I just wanted my life to be that American, that perfect dream, you know, with the white picket fence, and I wanted it now. So
Your Veruca Salt.
I graduated and I got proposed to because that's what I wanted, and I got a publishing deal because that's what I wanted. We had bought a house in Nashville because that's what I wanted, and I remember just being in pure bliss that year. Like, everything was perfect. I was like floating in the air, just like so happy.
22-ish?
21. No, 21 is when maybe I was 22. Okay, well, 21 or 22.
Sure.
22. Let's say 22.
So you got married.
Yeah. So then I got married. Yeah. And I got married and I signed a publishing deal and I had the house and I had 2 dogs, white picket fence, home studio. Dave was my best friend, and I learned so much from him, and I loved our life that we had. And then slowly I got so wrapped up in the who's who of Nashville. I started partying a lot.
It comes with the deal.
Yeah. But I kind of went crazy. Like, I had never taken those years to fuck off and just go party because I wanted to grow up so fast. So, you know, when people went away spring break in Cancun and all that, I was like, that looks fun. Like, I want to do that. But I never did anything like that. I just kind of took life seriously. And so when I started partying really hard. And I was hanging out with all the right people and getting invited to the right shows and the right parties. And I started acting out and misbehaving. And
What does that mean?
Oh, man. I mean, well, Dave didn't like to party. He had done that for years. He was in a boy band.
What boy band can you say?
It's called Wave in Canada. They had a number 1 and a number 2 and a couple number 2s, I think.
Is he older than you?
Yes, he's 8 years older.
So he had already done all this stuff.
Yes, he had partied hard for years and was ready to, like, you know, work hard. Like where I'm at right now. I just want to drink tea and work on my purpose. But he wanted to work hard and focus, and I was like young party girl, just, you know, entering the music industry at the parties. Keith Urban's there, and like Miranda Lambert, and like I'm at parties with all these people. Reba, like I'm at a party with Reba, and like I grew up listening to her as a child, so all these parties and situations I was in. There was definitely drugs. There was limousines with cocaine, and there was, I was in the perfect place if you want to make it in the music industry. I got invited to do shows that I wasn't good enough to do these shows. I was opening for people with record deals. And
because you were doing coke with them in the limos?
Yes. Yeah. I was just like doing the right things to line up to be in the right situations that I thought were going to get me where I wanted to go. And then I stopped writing good songs. And for me, my good songs are the ones that came from my heart, from my soul, where I was, and I'm just speaking my truth. Those are my good songs. And then here I am in Nashville trying to write the songs that I'm hearing on the radio about trucks and whatever. I just was trying, and the more I tried to fit that mold, the more I lost my soul. And I would turn songs in to Leslie, and she'd be like, "This is great, but this is a KJ song. Like, no one else is gonna sing this song. It's when you
were writing
cute,
from your truth, you mean, or when you were?"
Well, yeah. I mean,
so that's an interesting conundrum. When you write your truth, it's your truth, and as a national songwriter, we're supposed to write other people's not quite truth.
Yeah. Well,
because it has to be this universal.
Yeah, universal
song,
and
so it's got to have
vague
truth in it, but more vague traits. Yeah. Totally. So how was your marriage handling this? You being in a party girl, your meteor. I can't say it. The meteor of your self going. Why can't I say that word? Meteoric? That sounds so weird coming out of my mouth. It sounds like the
too
wrong
sophisticated
word.
for me.
Yes. Anyway, the fact that your pony was hitched to the right horse train. How about that? I don't even know what the hell that means. It doesn't matter. What was happening? You were coming home late. I mean, what was going on at home while you were doing this?
Well, I started living a double life, and I always felt so connected to a higher power, to my higher self or God or whatever you want to call it. I wrote in my journal all the time. I touched base with myself all the time to make sure that I was doing what felt right to me. And I stopped doing that. I avoided myself and my truth because something didn't feel right. But I didn't know what it was, and I didn't want to face it because I had already built this life. And
your ego was probably feeling awesome.
Yeah. Oh, totally. My ego was feeling great. But I lost my soul in Nashville. Holy shit. I really did. And so I'd come home, at 2 a.m. after partying and sleep till noon, and he was working hard, and we just kind of went separate ways emotionally. We stopped sleeping together. I mean, after 1 year of marriage, it would be 2 weeks and we'd be like, we should probably have sex soon, right? Yeah, but we just weren't into it. And then, so I started acting out a lot, and a year after we had been married, my grandmother actually passed away on our first wedding anniversary, and she was my closest grandparent. I just have this rose tattoo on my wrist for her. We called her Mimi, and she's very spiritual, and I didn't know this, she was a Reiki master, but she's also Catholic, which some people might think is contradictory, but she's very spiritual, and I felt so connected to her. And she died on our first year anniversary, and later on that summer, I spent a couple weeks in Maine by myself. My parents were there. They were about to go back to Michigan. They moved from Dominican to Michigan, and I was just there hanging out, partying with some friends at this bar, hometown bar, and I ran into my friend Renee, who I hadn't seen in years, and we had this giant hug, and it was like old times. She was my partner in crime for lots of summers when I was young. We got into our own share of trouble together, and she expressed to me that she was angry that she wasn't at the time she was angry and confused that she wasn't in my wedding. And I had grown away from her because she was my partner in crime that I got in trouble with, and I was trying to be a good girl.
So you go to Nashville and do cocaine.
Yes.
And
Oh my gosh. It's so weird. I tried to suppress a part of myself. I have a wild, crazy self. And, and then I also have my calm, my sweet side. I'm a Gemini. There's definitely two sides of me. And to be with Dave, he expressed early on that he didn't like my crazy side. And, he's like, I don't want to get involved with a younger, crazy girl who's just going to run away. And so I wanted to be with him. So I suppressed a side of me, all of my craziness. Like I hid it. I just wanted to be like a normal person so that I could fit with him. And then so that's why I pushed Renee away, because she fit in with my crazy side. And then when I saw her again, all of my crazy came back out. And I was like my old self again. I was like, oh my God. Like we drank, we did some cocaine that night, which I hadn't touched in a little while. And she brought out this side of me where, I felt like I was a kid again, just partying. And oh my goodness, this is a crazy story I'm about to tell. So this is 1 year into my marriage. Renee and I partying in my hometown, do some cocaine, drink lots of vodka, and it's like we get to my parents' house, we open up a really expensive bottle of wine. We're already blacked out drunk, and we drank like a really nice bottle of wine, sitting on the counter, just swigging right out of the bottle back and forth. And then we decide we want to go on a jet ski ride, and it's like 2 or 3 in the morning at this point. And we're running down the yard, like laughing, ripping all of our clothes off, completely naked. We get on the jet ski and we ride out full moon onto the lake. And we get out to the middle of the lake, and it's like so beautiful, and we're laughing, and we're so happy to be reunited after this time of not hanging out years. And we jump off to go skinny dipping, and we're swimming around in the water. And then I was so fucked up that I just couldn't see the jet ski anymore. And I thought that it was in one direction, and she's telling me it was in another direction. And I'm like, no, it's over here. And I start swimming away from the jet ski. And she's like, KJ, it's over this way. And she's calling at me. And then I'm swimming away, but then I start getting really tired because I'm coming down. I mean, not coming down. Who knows? I've been drinking and coking up, and my heart's racing, and I couldn't swim anymore. So she comes and she's holding me up because I'm about to drown, and we're in the middle of the lake, and it was fucking scary. And she starts screaming, or I start screaming, and then she starts screaming. So there's 2 naked girls in the middle of the lake screaming for help because I couldn't tread water anymore. And we didn't know where the jet ski was at this point. And so a fisherman wakes up to go fishing in the morning. It was probably 4 or 5 in the morning at this point. And he comes out and is like, oh my gosh, are you guys okay? He doesn't know we're naked, pulls us up on the boat, and we're both just like, oh my God, thank God. And we're on his boat naked, and he just got up to go fishing, and he found us. And then by the time we're on his boat, he's taking us back to my house, and the warden, the boat cops, they had got radioed that we were screaming, and he came up to the boat and was like, are you ladies okay? What's going on over here? And we are covered up with life jackets. And I was so fucked up that I just was wanting to tell the story, cocaine, you just want to tell everybody everything. I was like, well, we were driving my jet ski and then we lost it and blah, blah, blah. And Renee's like, shut the fuck up. What are you doing? And he's like, wait, you were driving a jet ski? And I was like, yeah, but we lost it. And I'm like, I'm just fucked up. I don't even know. And So he's like, okay, we're gonna need you to come onto our boat. And I was like, what? No, like, I'm not, like, I'm thinking, oh no, I'm in trouble. So all crazy coked out KJ decides to jump off the boat and start swimming. I can't make excuses for this girl. I literally can't. Like, I don't know who I was. I was so fucked up. And I apparently start trying to swim away. And then Renee's like, what the fuck are you doing? Get back on the boat. Get on the boat. Finally, like, go over to the police boat. And I'm giving them such a hard time. I'm, like, yelling at all of them. I was, like, cursing them out. And I just wanted to go home. And they took Renee back to my house. And they took me into the station. And when I got back to shore, too, there was, like, every cop from towns over were all standing on the shore waiting to see these two naked, fucked up girls. Jesus. Oh, my God. And I know. So this is the lowest point of my life. Like, lowest point of my life. And I go into the station. I remember I had, a fireman jacket on me that was, like, 100 pounds. Because that was, like, the only thing they could find to cover me up. And I'm sitting there in the station, and this officer calls Dave in Nashville, and it's like, it's 6 a.m, and is like, we have your wife here at the station. She has no clothes, and we're gonna need, like, a bail to get her out, and I think it was like $800 or something like that to get me out. And Dave is just in Nashville, like, what the fuck? My wife is in jail, naked, in Maine. And he's already, like, been ashamed of every wild part of me. Like, he didn't like when I got tattoos. And if I, said something blunt at a party, he'd be embarrassed by me. And so at this point...
Do you think a part of you was trying to push him over the edge so you could get out? Because when we don't get to be who we are, like, you clearly have a lot of tattoos. If you're married to someone who doesn't like you getting tattoos, I would imagine that even subconsciously you would start to buck against that.
For sure. I think at this point I was still thinking it was going to work with us. This was 1 year in. But this is the turning point. This day was the turning point. Was my mom shows up at the station at 8 a.m. She told me that I looked like the girl from The Exorcist, because I had been crying and I had, like, black mascara all around my eyes, and I was fucked up. I hadn't slept, and I was probably still drunk, still coked out, almost drowned, and, like, I looked like a drowned rat exorcist girl. Like, I was, like, so bad. And she was just, like, she felt like she had failed as a parent, but then at the same time she was happy that I was okay. And she was so angry. Like, she came to bail me out, but they would only accept cash, so she had to go all the way back home. She went to the ATM, took out the max that she was allowed to take out, and then went home, woke up my little brother so he could count dollar bills of his tips and contribute to bailing me out. And so when she finally comes back, she said she made me wait a little extra time on purpose because she wanted to punish me a little bit. And then I'm, like, sitting there in the car. It was like the ultimate ride of shame, sitting in the passenger seat. And we get to my house, and my dad is just standing there looking at me, and I couldn't look anybody in the eye. I just gave him a hug, and I walked into the house, and I crawled into a hole and slept for probably a day and a half or something. And when I woke up, my parents were about to leave to go back to Michigan. They just came in, said goodbye, and they left. And, like, we never really spoke about it again. And because they were happy I was okay, and they were ashamed, but they also knew that I was completely ashamed, and they didn't want to rub it in. So I spent 2 or 3 days in that house just, like, trying to collect myself and like figure out what was going on with me. Why would I act out that way? Why wasn't I really happy deep down? And like it felt so good to be reconnected with my friend Renee, even though she was like a bad influence. She was always the one that brought out that crazy side of me. And but I missed that side of me, and that was like when I got a taste of that side of me, I was like, oh my God, like I know that it got me in trouble, but like this is a part of who I am. I like to party. I like to try new things, and I like to act out, and I like to, to just be crazy sometimes and be wild. And I wasn't allowed to do that for so long. So when that happened, this is another awful part of the story that Dave doesn't know, and here it is. A few days later, was hanging out in town in my hometown in Maine, and ran into a guy that I'd hooked up with when I was like 18 years old, and we had some amazing chemistry, but we hooked up one time and never again. And I ran into him at the bar, and Dave and I had not touched each other in so long. Dave, he was such an amazing guy, but he didn't give me compliments, and he didn't, we didn't have a strong physical connection. I didn't feel like he was in love with me. And
was he in love with you, or was it just something that you felt?
I think we both kind of, it worked. We were friends, and it worked. It was like a business relationship, you know what I mean? It worked. But we weren't in love with each other. Like, we weren't, holding hands, and we weren't doing all the things that I didn't realize I was missing until I saw this guy. And this is 3 days after the awful jet ski incident. And I saw him, and he listened to, I poured out my heart and soul to this guy. And next thing you know, we're back at my house, and we start making out, and we hooked up. And it was like chemistry that I hadn't felt in so long that I forgot existed. And so cheating on Dave a year into our marriage flipped my world upside down, made me realize that I was settling for something that, I couldn't live without that chemistry that I had felt with this person. I couldn't. I was like, fuck. It's like once you know something, you can't unsee it, once you see something. So I was like, fuck, what am I gonna do? And I knew, first of all, I was already in the doghouse. I'd just been arrested. And then I cheated on him. And I felt like, that was rock bottom. Like, I got back to Nashville, I couldn't look him in the face. And I just started going to hike at Radnor Lake all the time. And that was me, the beginning of me really, really partying. Like, that whole year, I knew I needed to get divorced, but I had just had a wedding with 180 of the people that loved us, that all showed up there for us and made vows. And a year in, I knew that I had to get divorced. And I tried everything to avoid it. I was reading a book called Surrendering to Marriage. I was trying to, I know, seriously, surrendering to marriage, yeah. And I was just I was like, no, I married this person, and I'm going to stay with them. And I kept trying to convince myself that this was going to work, and that I just needed to get right with myself. And like...
But you started partying more?
But then I started partying. Like, every opportunity I got to, I was like playing Naked Twister with like music business executives. I was like just partying, all the right places, all the right people, music industry. And that whole year, I was 24 years old. That entire year is a blur. I stopped turning in songs for my publishing deal because I couldn't write anymore. And I asked to be let out of my deal because I wasn't feeling it. I was like, my soul was gone. I was like just going through the motions and partying and sleeping in, and it was a whole year of me being just completely miserable. And
miserable and getting exactly what you wanted at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a very confusing place to be.
On the outside it looked like I was stoked on life, but I was like crying myself to sleep. I was taking bubble baths, and Dave used to come in and join me in the bubble baths, and then that year I wouldn't let him anymore. He'd knock on the door and I'd be like, I need this bath for myself. And I would smoke weed every day so that I wouldn't have to like face my feelings. Smoke weed, be like, everything's okay, and sit in the bathtub and go on hikes and cry a lot. And I confided in my best friends, Danny and Megan and Jesse Lee. And finally, when I had just turned 25, I was a pile of shit that was like not getting out of bed until noon every day. And Dave walked over to the bed and he said, "What's wrong with you? Like, you just lay here and you seem so unhappy, and you party all night and then you just lay here in bed." And I just turned to him and I said, "I'm happier by myself than when I'm with you." And he said, "You've got to be fucking kidding me." And he kicked a hole through the bedroom door, and I threw a bunch of clothes in a hamper and got in my car and left and never came back. And I went to Danny Meyrick's house, and I stayed in his guest bedroom and I cried for a week. But it was like, at the same time, I felt so relieved because it was the first time I had really like spoken my truth and stood up for my soul. And so it was like the tears I was crying were for Dave and for hurting him and for hurting, I mean, my parents spending $30,000 on our wedding, that was one thing, but like that's just money. But like what hurt the most was hurting Dave, hurting his family, and bringing everybody on this journey and then letting everyone down. And because I'm the one who facilitated everything. I wanted to get married. I planned the whole thing, and then I was like not happy, and so that was the hardest part. My ego was fucking destroyed, non-existent. I was like, I sabotaged my publishing deal, which just wasn't a good fit for me in hindsight. And so I didn't give Leslie enough gratitude either. I mean, I left feeling bitter about it, and all she was trying to do was help me. But I just felt like my creativity was hindered, and I like couldn't be myself, and it just wasn't a right fit. I'm not a commercial songwriter. I mean, I write my own songs, and I write some pretty commercial songs, but that's not like, being a commercial songwriter is not for me. And it's
a different mindset for sure.
Yeah. And so anyways, that was my divorce. 25 years old. I stayed with him for an extra year. He's Canadian. So we stayed married because he had built this life in Nashville and would have had to go back to Canada if I had divorced him. And I still love him as a person and care about him, and of course didn't want to hurt him anymore. I didn't ask for a penny. I just like left the house to him, and he didn't want to split up the dogs. We had 2 really cute dogs, and they're still together, brother and sister, and he has them, and I miss them a lot. But yeah, that whole chapter of my life I left behind, and I went out to Hawaii to find some healing.
You had friends there, or you just said that?
My friend Renee, the jet ski Renee, she happened to live out in Hawaii. She moved out there to train dolphins. She went to school for marine biology, and she fell in love. And she had been there for a couple of years. And she's like, "You have to come out. You'll love it so much."
Were you worried about that? If she was jet ski Renee?
No, because I was ready for that. I was ready for an escape.
More? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. I was I was ready to escape. Like, I just had heavy feelings about this divorce, but then I also felt free to be myself again for the first time. I was like just happy to be free to do whatever I want and nobody to answer to, and I didn't have a publisher, and I didn't have I started waiting tables again. And
in
that
Hawaii?
first in Nashville, so I could save money to go to Hawaii. But that was crazy because I went from like partying with all these people and having a publishing deal to waiting on them. So like
surreal.
Certain people would come in and they're like, "Oh, you work here now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, hi, like can I get you a drink?" Like, and
what's
I just
strange
swallowed my
about
pride.
that too, of course, is the ego is so fragile in Nashville that to go from the party girl to suddenly the serving girl, they paint you into this corner that you will not escape from, it seems, you know?
Yeah, totally.
That must have been so weird.
It was, but at the same time, I'm resilient, and like I know the difference between internal and external power,
but they might not.
No, they don't, and I don't
Which is
care.
the
I don't
problem.
care. Honestly,
Yeah.
after that experience in Nashville, money, like financial success and commercial success does not impress me
Right.
at all. Like I've seen it all.
Well, it's
I've
not
seen
that impressive.
the biggest losers in the world
Exactly.
that have all this money and have all these hit songs and stuff like that are just
And they're
losers.
miserable.
And they're like empty.
Well, loser is that's a
Sorry.
judgment call, but certainly
Yes.
they are empty and
Some
soul-
of them,
yeah,
and then some of them are
horrible people.
some of them are wholehearted and amazing and
Yeah,
deserve
of course.
everything that they
Absolutely.
have. You know, I mean, we all deserve what we have.
But absolute power corrupts absolutely. Very few people can avoid the trap of the ego.
Yeah,
I mean, even in regular life, it's extraordinarily difficult to avoid our egos. They're waiting at the door the minute you wake up. Are you up? You piece of shit? Or are you up? You're so awesome. You're better than everyone. Are you up? You know what I mean? It's that constant annoying
yeah,
voice.
that voice in your head, which I finally learned the difference. You know, it took a really long time, yeah, I've been reading all these books about it. That book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. That book saved my life a few years ago. I was going through, I think it was 4 years ago, I read this book while I was going through an awful breakup. Asshole I dated after Dave. Oh, man.
I'll put it on the links page for sure. So what happened when you got to
Yeah.
Hawaii? You just took a bag of shit and said, I'm going to go check
took
it
a
out.
suitcase and a guitar, and I was like, all right, I quit music. Getting to Hawaii made me see Nashville from the outside in, and I realized that I had been living in this bubble, and I thought I would never leave Nashville. I thought that was my life. Like, all of my friends were in the music industry. My ex-husband was in the music industry. So my whole life, everything I talked about and everything I lived for 5 years straight was music industry. And then when I got to Hawaii and I realized how small that was in the grand scheme of the world, it was like the biggest weight off my shoulders. I was like skipping around, just like so happy and light and free feeling. And I was like, holy shit, there's fruit growing on the trees, and there's, you know, it's bright and sunny every day, and this water is crystal clear and turquoise blue, and I just was so happy to be in that environment, and I thought I would go there for a month maybe. And another detail is my intern when I was working at Tom Lee's Music was Hawaiian. And so he was another reason for me to go visit Hawaii. So when I first got to Hawaii, I went to Honolulu for 2 weeks, and I stayed with him and his family, and I shared the downstairs basement with his 88-year-old Filipino grandmother who barely spoke any English, and she was so sweet. And she'd like make me food all the time. I'd be like hungover, and she'd come put a cheeseburger next to me, like in bed. And I'm like, looking at it like I'm gonna puke, and she's just like, no, you eat. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I'm like, that was my introduction to Hawaii. And I partied in Honolulu for 2 weeks, and I realized it was just more of the same. Like, it was just another city, and I wanted something different. So I went to the Big Island to go visit my friend Renee, and as soon as I landed in Kona, I knew, like, it was nighttime, so I couldn't even see the island, but as soon as I landed there, I just knew that was where I was supposed to be, and I was going to stay there for a little while at least. So when I got to Kona, that was my belly, I don't know if you could hear that. When I got to Kona, I stayed in an Airbnb by the beach, and first thing I did was go to Target and buy a fan because Hawaii in July is pretty unbearable. And I went to a smoke shop and I bought a little bong, and that was the beginning of my Hawaii adventure. I started learning how to play a lot of like the local music on guitar. Way different and way cooler for me than anything I had learned in Nashville. You know, everyone's strumming these country songs, and in Hawaii everything's got such a, you know, an island feel, and that's what I grew up around in the Dominican Republic. So it just felt right, and so it changed the way I play guitar. I started waiting tables there until I got enough gigs that I didn't have to wait tables. That took about 4 or 5 months. And
gigs, playing music.
Yeah, playing music. And I started playing cover gigs all over the place, and that's what I've been doing for 6 years. And it's slowly morphed into me playing more artist gigs and writing a lot more. And now I'm spending a lot of time in LA, back and forth.
Well, so you spent 6 years playing cover songs and doing that and becoming ingrained in the island life, but you said that first year you were going nuts. So what in Hawaii? So what was the catalyst to you not doing that anymore?
Well,
I assume you were with Renee partying.
Yeah, I was. You know, it's funny. People go to Hawaii some people just go, you know, for like a nice family vacation, which is perfect. That's what Hawaii is all about. But if you're going to look for a party, you're not going to find it unless you're creating your own party or you're in Honolulu. But everybody goes to bed early and wakes up early because it's the lifestyle. It's beautiful. It's healthy. There's fresh fruits and vegetables everywhere. And like that place saved me. Like, so I first got out there. I moved in with Renee and and her boyfriend's brother and this guy named Sean, who I ended up dating, and that group of people likes to party, and so I was partying with them a lot, but I also kind of wanted to chill out and, you know, immerse myself in the island lifestyle. So I partied for a couple months with them, and then I moved into my own little cottage up in a little town called Holualoa, which is where I actually live now. I have a house there now, but that was the part of the island that felt like home to me when I first got there. I drove through this little mountain town, and I was like, what is this place? I couldn't even say it for the name of the town, Holualoa, but for a while I was like, you know, that halala town, you know? And I had this cute little cottage, and just tried to chill out, and was distancing myself from the party scene. And but I started dating this guy named Sean, and he was the first guy I had ever dated who I was very physically attracted to, like extremely physically attracted to, and he would take me on like real dates and swept me off my feet and was very charming, but also kind of an asshole. And you know, when guys like will insult you to try and hit on you, he'd be like, I see what you're trying to do there with that outfit, but it's not really working for you. And like he'd say things like that, and it would like hurt my feelings, but then it would also, in a weird manipulative way, it made me want to like,
that sounds
please
toxic.
him. It was extremely toxic. That's the perfect word for it. So I was in this toxic relationship for a year, and we were just
They're looking for a dead body outside or something.
I know. Helicopters flying by and LA for ya. And but anyways, you're in this toxic relationship, and at that time in my life, I was the worst person that I had ever been. You know,
So you felt you deserved this.
Yeah, so it was actually the perfect thing that I needed to see the things I should change about myself. He was like a mirror reflection of all the things I needed to change about myself. He was, you know, I feel bad. I don't want him to hear this now, but he knows it.
I'm gonna shut that window.
So yeah, I was in this toxic relationship that really cracked me open. You know, all the dishonesty that I was a dishonest person for a little while, and he kind of showed me how it feels to be on the other side of that. And after our tumultuous relationship,
why do they always come with such good sex? I never will understand that.
It's the passion. It's the
the passion.
I'm actually reading this book right now called Mating in Captivity, and it's like, you know, it's a correlation with mystery. Like when you first meet somebody and you're not certain about them or whether it's going to last, that's when the sex is really good. And then when you have that security and that safety and that comfort, the passion can die away. So
that's the wild animal in us. That's our reptilian brain still kicking in.
Totally. So yeah, we had a very, very strong physical connection. But in hindsight, he didn't know how to connect on a deeper level. You know, it was like, it was all physical, but like making love wasn't in the cards with that guy. And so I went from one extreme to the other. And then
you're the human pendulum, I guess, right?
Yes, I'm slowly like settling in somewhere in the middle. But yeah, that was a crazy time, and it kind of cracked me open, and all these experiences keep cracking me open. And I now, you know, feel like I have a really good idea of what love looks like, what my version of love looks like. And I'm grateful for that experience, and it was really, really hard to get through. I lost my soul in that relationship.
With Sean? And with Dave, it sounds like.
Totally. I lost myself for some years. Like,
you said that you weren't, I remember when we got together the other morning, you said that you were just not a good person. And I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
Yeah, I wasn't being honest with myself, but I was just like a lost little girl from like 24 to like 26 for 2 years. I'd say I was completely lost and crazy. And I had a lot of fun. But when I was 26, turning 27, I was really searching deep inside myself for answers, because I was tired of feeling fucked up. I was tired of running from my problems. I was tired of drinking and reaching for all these external things to try and fill this hole I was feeling inside. And so I moved to Honolulu, away from Kona, the quiet island, because I just needed to get away from that relationship. We were going back and forth, just, you know, we'd try to get back together, and then we'd just hurt each other over and over and over. And then eventually he found somebody else, and that really hurt me. Even though I didn't want to be with him moving on just like was like a knife into my chest. And then so all these ego problems, damn ego. And then that's when I moved to Honolulu, and I basically quit drinking. I didn't have any friends there, so I was forced to go inward. And I ate very lightly. I was almost fasting sometimes, just because I felt like I didn't want food, and my brain was clearer when I didn't eat and drink. And I found myself in a new way. After I read that book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, there's a chart in that book that had, when your thoughts and your feelings and your actions are all aligned, that's when you're an aligned person, and that's when you're able to manifest and you're able to, move along smoothly. And I had never seen that before. I'd never thought about that. I remember watching The Secret with an ex-boyfriend when I was younger, and he was so into it, and I didn't get it. I was like, I don't understand any of this. And I just wasn't ready. And when I read this book, there's a million books with the same concept, but this was the one that resonated with me. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I would read a chapter, and then I would journal about it. And I was like, I wanted to get it. Like, I was ready for anything. So I really wanted to understand this. So I'd read pages over and over and just until I got it. And then, and that completely changed me. Those 6 months in Honolulu, I played some gigs, but I got my real estate license because, my whole life blew up in my face. I was just like maybe music's not going to be, what's going to make me money, and maybe I should get my real estate license. And I'm a smart girl. I've always been book smart. I got my real estate license like that. I read the books and took the test and passed on the first try. And I got a job selling timeshare, which I didn't want to do, but I just had basically a free in to this company in Honolulu. And so I just took it because it was right there in front of me, and I hated it, and I felt like a slimy salesperson, and that's just not who I am. And I wasn't good at, I sold a few of them and I didn't feel good about them. And I'm the kind of person that just wants to give you the facts, and if I don't think it's for you, I'm going to be honest. There was some old couples that came in, and I was like, guys, have you ever seen Airbnb? I wasn't good at it because I can't lie to people.
I tried to tell my parents about Airbnb, but they insisted on getting a thing, and I'm like,
it works for some people, I guess, but I
think it preys on old people, but that's just me.
For sure. Yeah. And yeah, I just couldn't do it. So I did that for 2 months, and then I was like, fuck this, I'm going back to music. Every time I stray away from music, my life falls apart. And every time I get back to just focusing on music, everything is going right. It's so crazy when you just focus on your passion and your contribution to the world and what lights you up. And I don't think about money. I don't think about
because it's anything. Not, I know it's so cliche to say that nowadays, but it's really not what's important. Yes, it's nice to have healthcare and a roof over your head and food. Obviously the basics are important. But the idea of what does richness mean? What does success mean? And I think that we are sold a bill of goods that richness means, the fast car in the driveway and the 8 million rooms in the house and all that. But I think that I've been in billionaires' homes. There's a chill in the air. I've been in homes where people have maybe making $35,000 a year, and it just feels like a house of love, and there's art and music flowing and things like that. So I don't think money is the thing.
No, it's not. And it's funny too, the less I stress about money and focus on music, the money just comes.
Right. Because you've changed your relationship with it.
Totally.
It's sort of like dating. If you like a guy and you're constantly calling him and texting him or whatever, the guy's not going to be that interested in you probably, because it's just not how it works, right? Just like when guys are cramming down your throat, you're like, not so much.
No, if you're out looking for dudes all the time, you're not going to find them.
Right.
You just have to focus on yourself. I feel like
money is just like that. Money is just like any relationship, that if you're constantly obsessed with it, it's going to be more of the elusive yeti,
Totally.
I know there's probably a ton of people going, that's a bunch of hooey, woo-woo bullshit, but for me, it works that way, I feel like.
It's like the law of attraction kind of thing. If you focus on what you focus on your lack, then you're just emphasizing it. And if you can just focus on the feeling of having it, like the feeling of having the money and being okay and having everything that you need, then you'll attract more.
Yeah, I believe that very much so.
For sure. So where were we?
Well, I mean, so I think we're coming to where you are now. So you started.
Yeah. Oh, yoga. Okay. So that same time that I moved to Honolulu, this is a very important thing. That summer changed my life because I read the books. I just quit drinking. I just became like healthy. I committed to fixing myself. Like rock bottom. I've hit so many rock bottoms and somehow still just been like, fuck it, toast, like cheers, just drinking to it. And I'm like, okay, I'm so done with being here on the bottom. Like I'm done. Like I need to fix myself. I want to feel better. Like I genuinely was done. And I surrendered to, I was like on my knees. I was like praying, and I've never, I don't believe in like the Christian, religion necessarily. I was raised Catholic with all that guilt and shame. But I believe in a higher power, and I believe in my higher self and the higher consciousness and spirit. And so I came to this point where I was just praying, and I was like, I have nothing left. Like I don't know who I am anymore. I was starting all over, in this new city in Honolulu. And my friend had introduced me to yoga because I was a pile of shit crying on his floor. My birthday, it was my 27th birthday, I think. Yeah, 27th birthday. And we both woke up hungover after a crazy ass party, super fun party. We like all microdosed on mushrooms and had a big pool party, and everyone was naked, and so partying is not wrong. I want to say that because that part of myself that, that crazy part of me that I tried to hinder and push away, that's a part of me that I love and enjoy. And I've found my tribe of people who also love and enjoy that in a way that we're not betraying ourselves.
You found the balance to it.
Yeah. Like we can party in a way that's like aligned with ourselves and loving. And I have so many amazing friends, and we're not judging each other. We're just like, we're all having an amazing time, but nobody's cheating on anybody, and nobody's cheating on themselves, and everyone's just doing what feels good. And when it's time to go, they leave. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that. We like to have a good time. And I'm never gonna like try and change that and hide parts of myself for anybody again. I gotta be myself, Yeah,
I shoot the representative dead in the head. Send the representative home. No more representatives. Just be who you are. Yes. And the thing is if we spend all this time in our relationships with our representative acting as our proxy, then how will we ever be happy? Because we'll never feel safe to just be. Because you're always waiting for, oh my God, this is the day that I do this and the other person decides they don't love me. Well, just do who you are from the get-go. If that person decides that you're not the one they want to love, great. You've not wasted anyone's time, especially your own.
Totally.
All right, it's that self-worth and shame and all that stuff is tied in. But yeah, shoot that fucking representative dead in the eye, bury them in the backyard, and be you. Totally. Fully 100%.
Totally. I listen to a lot of YouTube videos. Teal Swan, she's awesome. But
I'll put links on there.
Yeah, Teal Swan. I listen to all her YouTube videos, and she's just she's like intuitive, and talks about relationships, and she's.
I would never guess a person named Teal Swan was an intuitive.
Yeah. She's awesome. And then I also listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks. If I wake up in a grumpy mood, I just put on one of the YouTube videos and listen to it. And then I'm like, oh, yes, it's my choice to be happy. It's my choice to be aligned. It's my choice to look at things a certain way. and it just changes my mind.
I'm a big fan of Ram Dass Experiments in Truth. I re-listen to that every year, and I listen to The Alchemist twice a year, and it really helps keep me.
I reread that book all the time.
Yeah, such a good book. Yeah.
I mean,
so where are you now? What you got to the other side?
Yeah, I was gonna say that yoga.
Oh, right.
Was this huge thing that facilitated my healing. After this crazy ass party at my friend Jesse's house, one of my best friends, Jesse, no shirt Jesse, shout out, love you, and he the next morning was like, let's do yoga, and I hadn't really done yoga before, and he led me in a yoga session, just him and I, yoga mats out on his porch, and I really enjoyed it, and I felt so calm and so clear afterwards, and I was like, huh. And he's like, yeah, you should. We went on a yoga retreat to Honduras or something recently, and you should come. I go to yoga all the time at Yoga Hale and in Kona. And so I started going to yoga regularly and realizing that every time I went to yoga, it was the only time I felt okay. And because I had been going through this awful breakup where we were being mean to each other, and it was the only time where I wasn't really thinking about it very much, and I was feeling okay, and I was feeling clear, and I wasn't crying. I mean, there were definitely some upward tears in my downward dog, but but like I felt such clarity after doing yoga that I started becoming obsessed with it. I did it every single day, sometimes twice a day. And when I moved to Honolulu, I went to hot yoga 3 times a week, and I did regular yoga in my apartment, which was hot yoga because it was the summer in Hawaii. And YouTube videos, and I got in such good shape, better shape than I've ever been in my life, mentally and physically. And my life changed so much then that I can hardly remember who I was before it. I mean, I literally had like an awakening and became so happy with being alone and didn't really miss him at all anymore. And I love being alone so much that like if any guy tried to come into my life, I was like, no, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm good. Like I went traveling by myself. I've been to by myself for a month at a time. I've been to Australia, Bali, Thailand, Spain. This last year I went to Mexico and Cuba. And I love to travel by myself, and I love to just completely immerse myself in the culture and learn. And I took guitar lessons in Cuba this last year, and it changed the way I play. And I'm really connecting more with my Dominican roots living there for my whole junior high and high school years. The Latin music is something that's been instilled in me, and I shied away from it for so long. In fact, I completely blocked out that part of my life for a while because it was such a painful experience being the only white kid in my school and trying to fit in this third world country where nothing was normal to me. And then I like blocked out that part of my life, and then now I'm reconnecting with it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to speak Spanish. Like, oh yeah, I can dance, and I love Natalia Lafourcade is one of my favorite artists that I listen to now. She's a Mexican artist, and I'm learning all of her songs, and I'm writing songs in Spanish. I'm starting to play songs in Spanish, and learning more Latin rhythms on guitar. Always trying to learn and grow, and reconnecting with that has been my most recent musical journey.
I think this is all just so inspiring. It's hard enough to navigate the world with people around you, but to get to a place where you're okay in your own self and to navigate is extraordinary. It's such a beautiful story. When we got together for breakfast the other morning and you started telling me all this stuff, I was like, my God, I think these stories are important to hear because they inspire others who may, in fact, they may be on the precipice of doing that, and they're terrified to jump. And you've been terrified a lot And you still jumped.
I'm terrified all the time. I mean, even coming out here, I've been here in LA for 6 weeks. And every time I'm about to go somewhere new and I don't know what to expect. I mean, LA's not new, but...
Well, it's a new experience.
Yeah, I've been here many times, but coming out here for 6 weeks is a new experience. And every time I'm packing my bags and I'm about to take off to a new place and I don't know what to expect, I am scared. And I love it. It's like this thrill. I'm like, I don't know what to expect. Like, if I'm going to a new place, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what the food's going to be like. I don't know anybody there. But that thrill of making myself do it is like, gets me high. I love it. And then like maneuvering through Cuba, Havana, for example, that place is it's not an easy place to go visit. It's not made for tourism. And I was taking public transportation, like just hopping in the little cars that are packed with people, and like probably the only like white girl doing that. And I barely knew where I was going or how the cars went, where they went, because you just go down one street and then you get off when you're at an intersection and get into another car and go down another direction. And it was crazy. But it thrilled me. Like when I would get back to my Airbnb at the end of the day, I would close the door behind me and like literally just be like screaming, like with excitement and like jumping up and down, just like so excited because it's like I had just ridden a roller coaster and I was just like so thrilled that I had done it. And I'm like, okay, I need more of this. And it's like scaring the shit out of me, and also like it's pushing me to grow. And I guess I just have like this lust for growth and experiencing new things all the time. And that used to be, something that was frowned upon. Kids, you're just like, curiosity killed the cat, and you just want them to be safe. And I'm the one that wants to try everything and seeks the thrill of the unknown constantly. And I can't sit still for too long.
I think it has served you well. How can people find your music?
My music, justkj.com has links to everything, justkj.com. And then my Instagram is justkj.love, justkj. That's my artist name, justkj. And it's crazy how like my music didn't start really taking off until I gave up on it. It's like once the pressure was off and I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing music anymore. And then I just started doing it for myself and doing it for fun. That's when the best songs started coming.
Returning to truth every time.
Yeah. And like taking that pressure off. And I've had to try and unlearn a lot of the things I learned in Nashville and stop measuring myself on that scale, because I look at people I went to college with and people that I wrote with back in the day when I was there, and they all have songs on the radio and they're as artists and songwriters. And I'm like, man, if I had stuck it out, I totally would have had something on the radio by now. But is that really what I want? No. So why am I comparing myself to these people? Like, I can't, I don't care if people think like, oh, she gave up and she left, because I've gained way more than I ever would have staying there.
I would argue that, and I say this all the time, you expanded. That there's a strange thing that I think people who are used to doing the same thing, they're single-minded in their focus, and they're doing something, they're doing it well, and that's going to serve them their whole life. That when they see people who are like, okay, I did this, now I got to go do this, and once I've done that, now I got to go do that. They don't understand that. It doesn't make sense because it doesn't feel secure. It doesn't feel safe. But to me, it feels expansive. You become part of the universal flow. That's an exciting thing. I can't imagine a life not doing that. It's just, but for some people, it just doesn't work. And you bring up the whole success thing too. What does success mean? when I got my Reba cut, I sat on my bed and cried. I thought, it does not get better than this, because I grew up worshiping her, and to have that happen was such a huge moment. And to be able to call my parents and have them actually know who she was, because, they don't follow country music or anything. And then people are like, ooh, what happens next? What happens next? I'm like, God, can't I just be in this for a minute?
Yeah. And Reba cut? Hell yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, what is successful? Oh, I guess success is actually Carrie Underwood cut, or whoever, or Kelsey Ballerini cut. Well, don't put that on me. If that's what makes you feel great about yourself, great. But every goal that I set for myself, when I achieve it, feels like success. But man, there's sure a lot of voices telling you that that's not enough. We have to be, and I talk about this all the time, we have to be the gatekeepers. We have to, for ourselves, we have to be the dominion of ourselves. Nobody gets to look at KJ and say, this is your story, this is what you should or shouldn't do. How would that ever work for you?
Yeah.
I mean, if you felt like your wings were clips, it seems to me that you'd be looking around the house looking for anything to tape to you to get yourself out the window again, So that whole idea of the word success, it always, it makes me a little...
Well, yeah, people ask me all the time, like, so have you done anything big? Like, have you,
Jesus, your whole life has been something big.
Yeah. And it's because I play a lot of private events in Hawaii, and in weddings and conventions and small festivals and stuff. And I have people coming up to me all the time asking, like, so, like, have you done anything big? And they're referring to, like, commercial success. And of course, like, everybody wants that. Like, I would love to be Jason Mraz. I'd love to be Jack Johnson. I mean, not be them, but they're some of the people that I would love to be like. They, for me, are expanders that show me that you don't have to sell your soul and be a party animal. And, like, Jack Johnson goes on tour with his family and plays family-friendly festivals, and I'm sure he's not getting wasted and, getting hotel rooms and trashing hotel rooms and stuff.
He knows what success means to him. It means something different to him than what it means to Steven Tyler or, And
then Jason Mraz.
Yeah.
Jason Mraz is another expander for me. He does yoga before every show. He's an organic farmer, and he's in love with his wife, and he just does his own thing. And Michael Franti, and, like, these are people that have shown me that what I want, that I thought was so different, is actually a thing. Like, I'm not, like, it's possible.
Well, I think you're an inspiration. I really do. I'm not just saying that because you're sitting in front of me and, were kind enough to let me talk to you, but I do find your life inspiring.
Thank you so much.
You keep showing up,
I think the key is recognizing early on when something is hindering your authentic self. Whether it's a relationship or a substance you're using or food that you're eating, even just anything, friends that you're hanging out with.
Self-talk, anything.
Self-talk, yeah. Any habit, anything that's hindering your alignment. And then always checking in to make sure that...
Escaping into versus expanding out from. I think that's really the thing.
Totally.
Thank you, KJ.
Thank you.
Everybody, all the things we've talked about, I'll put those books that KJ talked about on the links page on heyhumanpodcast.com. So they're easy to find, and YouTube videos and all that good stuff. So thank you for listening. Bye. Thanks for listening. Remember to rate and review Hey Human on iTunes. Thank you. Bye.